Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Self Literacy Podcast. I think it's an episode that so many people have been waiting for.
Truth.
We did a throw forward of this episode, I think, sometime last month,
Yeah.
and we said we are gonna have the poster children of wisdom coming to the platform, and finally they are here. I'm so excited. I'm literally a sponge today.
Yeah.
I'm just here to absorb.
Yeah, I think that's
Minimal
the most-
talking from my end. I'm just here to listen.
Love it.
That being said, lady, gent, welcome to Self Literacy Podcast. It's such an honor, a delight to have you here.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you guys.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it.
Heavy, you said you were anxious today.
I was, I don't know. So I was walking up the stairs.
Yeah.
Went downstairs to go get our guests. And then while I'm walking up, I'm walking in front of them. And then I asked them, so I think we're ready for today. Are we all geared up? And then somebody says behind me, they say, we've been working all night on these questions. And I was like, okay, now the pressure is on.
Yeah.
Anxiety started to kick in.
But you
But
do
I
know
think-
it was just a joke. Okay?
Yeah, no, definitely.
It was just a joke.
Yeah, it was just a joke.
But yeah, we are delighted to have you guys here. I think before we start, I just want to know, what's your favorite thing about Lyndon? And Lyndon, what's your favorite thing about Alexis?
Sure.
So I'll start and just say thank you so much for the invitation.
100%.
It's such
Love
a
it.
privilege. And when I heard the name of your podcast, I felt so drawn to it. Because for me, one of the most important things we can do today is get to know ourselves better. It is about self-awareness, self-literacy, self-management, self-regulation.
Yeah.
I think for me, a superpower today is self-regulation.
Whew.
But what drew me to Lyndon was his altruism. One of the first times I saw him, he was at a children's home taking pictures as a volunteer, and just that generosity and that wanting to make a difference, I think really resonated with me.
Wow.
Well, I think I knew she was coming, so I had to do all of the posing and make sure that I impress.
Yeah.
I think for me, yeah, it's absolute privilege for us to be with you guys. It's been a while coming, and we're excited about it. And we just love sharing what we've gleaned over the years
Yeah.
with especially young people. And just, very passionate about building marriages and relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, what drew me to Alexis, I think that the eyes, the smile, firstly from the physical and the legs, from the physical aspect, and then just her sense of generosity, just and the warmth that just exudes from her is,
Beautiful.
I think, what captured me the first time.
Yeah.
When I saw her the first time, that was what struck me.
Speaking of warmth, and really I'm getting ahead of myself. When I did a bit of research, I came across this. Like I said, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm excited, so allow me.
Yes.
So I'm going to say this. It says, quote unquote, Alexis Johnston, after 38 years of doing marriage with you, you're my number one person more than ever before. It then says, I've loved doing life with you, and I'm excited about the next 30 years. Thank you for loving and supporting me unconditionally. Listen to that.
Oh, that is beautiful.
We're going to get into that later.
That is beautiful.
Imagine.
Got me going. That got me
38
going.
years.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I love that.
Are you excited for your 38?
I mean, yes. He always puts me on the spot like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
but that's amazing. I love that.
It's beautiful, man.
love that,
Let's
yeah.
get into it, man. Where did it start for the two of you? How did you guys meet? And was there a bit of resistance when he came to you? Or did you know that, hey, this is what's happening. This is my man.
I see she's doing that, so she agrees there was some resistance. But you go for it. You can tell the first story.
So I actually met Lyndon in his mom's house.
Interesting.
One of my close friends had spoken to Lyndon. She hadn't spoken to me so much, but she had told Lyndon to meet me. And we were dropping her off after going for dinner, a whole group of girls, and she invited us in for coffee. She happened to be staying at his mom's place. There was some crisis in her life, and his mom took her in. So she invited us for coffee. And there Lyndon was in his mom's lounge. So
Do
crazy
you remember?
story.
Do you remember what he was wearing?
No, absolutely not.
You know what, how he was sitting was
Really, bro?
just leaning back and chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just seemed super chilled there on the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured.
Look, what you didn't know at the time was that when Elaine, who had now sadly passed on, when she walked in, I was the only one in the house who was still up. And I said, "Who's outside?" And she said, "It's Alexis and some other girlfriends." And I said, "Oh, but invite them in for coffee."
Come.
Because she had said, "You have to meet this Alexis."
Yeah.
So I said, "Here's my chance." And then she went to the bathroom. They came in. She went to the bathroom. And I organized the seating so that the only open space was next to me.
Nice. Nice. That's gangster.
Take note. Men, gents, take note.
Smooth.
Hey, you got to try the moves.
You gotta move
100%.
in. You gotta move in.
And so that was the space open. When she came in, that's where she had to sit. And
Yeah.
for me, that was it. Sold.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. You know, one of the things I prepped was that marriage is often painted as this serious institution. You know, it's not fun. Also, we don't hear many stories about, you know, life after marriage.
Yeah.
So you guys meet, you know, you create the space that, you know, she sits next to you, right?
Yeah.
Very calculated. I'm very impressed, just by the way.
Smooth, too smooth.
So you guys meet, you decide that you're getting married, you get married, then what? You know, what does life then look after marriage? Also, was the revelation of the purpose of your marriage revealed or released to you guys at the inception of the marriage, or was it something that became clearer as you
Yeah.
progressed in your marriage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I think when we decided to get married, prior to that, we had broken up several times. We had
I just
all the,
wanted to date for 3 months. I was at varsity.
She
I was
thought it was
looking
just
to
a
live
fling,
the
you know?
varsity
Yeah.
life.
Having the time of your life.
And God had other plans.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had gone through all of the fighting, the conflict, or a lot of it. We had many arguments, and I think quite a bit of it came from my own insecurities, and I think it's important to take ownership of your role in circumstances like that. But when we decided to get married, what was key for us was, are we on the same page? We were both born again at the time as well, which was really important for the both of us. And then we had to see our visions for our futures aligned. And we had to have those conversations prior to actually getting married. Otherwise, there's no sense in it. Right?
100%.
So that was important for us. And then part of it was as well, once we agreed on that we are aligned in terms of God's purpose for us, individually and as a couple, that we have to prepare ourselves for what lies ahead. Because marriage is a journey,
Yeah.
and you've got to plan for it. And so we went through premarital preparation at the church where we were in Cape Town at St. James. And that was the foundation for us also to have other hard conversations around our relationship, families, expectations, how do we fit into the bigger family, how do they fit into our lives, etc. So from my perspective, that was kind of the starting point.
Okay.
That then led to the next step, which was getting married. But I think Alexis can take it a bit further from here.
Okay.
I think vision, alignment, but also values.
Yeah.
If you're not aligned in your values, you're going to have a lot of the conflict post-marriage. So I think the gift to us was that we didn't go into marriage with a starry-eyed rom-com idea of marriage. We'd already done the heavy lifting in terms of sorting out just who are you and what are the unhealed parts of you that you bring to this relationship. Because like Lyndon said, I mean, there was a lot from his side as well. His dad left. He was raised by a single mom. So you carry a lot of that woundedness into the relationship. My parents were married for life, but there's also things that I brought into the relationship, like a strong performance orientation. And everything was about, you have to perform with absolute excellence, almost as if that's conditional to being loved. So although our parents were really great, we needed to realize that's what we're bringing into the marriage. And how do we do the work, the personal work? How do we become literate about who we are, what's important to us, what matters to us, what really matters to us, and how we choose to show up.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing to Bang is not about falling in love, which is so romantic.
Yeah.
If you look at social media, if you look at the movies, it's all about falling in love. But if you fall in love, you can then fall out of love. So for us, it was, if we're Christians, we have to make a decision, a God-inspired commitment. So when you feel like it, and on the days you don't feel like it, this is how you're going to show up to honor your commitment.
What I'm hearing is, the backbone of a relationship is not love, but commitment at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You guys talk about alignment. What does that look like? Can you paint a picture of just being aligned as man and woman in a relationship?
So are you aligned in terms of what matters to you? So I think for both of us, respect was an absolute non-negotiable. And that also informs how we fight, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about will you fight, or if you'll fight, it's when will the conflict happen?
It's inevitable, yeah.
Yes. So one of the ground rules for us is there has to be absolute respect in how you fight. So we can disagree, but disrespect is a big no-no for us. So respect was one of those things we had to be aligned on. And respect can change, right? So I think of how I was raised by parents who were so conservative and strict. So for me, kids had to be seen and not heard unless you were invited into a conversation. You couldn't disagree, you couldn't challenge, you were just told what to do. So that was respect for my parents. But for me, when I became a parent, respect was that you can absolutely have a voice and you can disagree, but that you do it with so much dignity and respect for the person. So respect as a value is a non-negotiable, but the shape and form of it can transition over time.
Beautiful.
I think another value is integrity.
Yeah.
And integrity is what you say when everyone's around you and what you do when no one is around you. So you don't have to be policed. You determine your level of integrity. So for me, those are two things that we were aligned on.
I
Those
think
were
also
non-negotiables.
from a practical perspective, we had to have conversations and align on children. How many kids do we want? And how will we raise our children as parents? And what are the values that we bring from our childhood into raising our own children?
Yeah.
What do we take with us? What do we discard?
Okay.
And what do we bring from a new perspective of younger parents into a changing environment, changing world? What do we bring into it? And how do we then raise our children within that framework? So that was one of the more practical things that we had to align on as well.
So the blueprint from his family, the blueprint from my family, and then our blueprint as a couple.
Oh, I love that.
Creating your own blueprint.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Not running away from that, I just have a quick story to share. And I want you to answer it because I think for me, it's a question I've been asking myself for the longest time. Majority of my friends now are married. Like a lot of them are married. I'm just always the odd one out. So I have these conversations with them all the time. And the question I always ask them, like, how do you keep it going? And then they like to say to me, tolerance. So we're discussing alignment now. And I just want to find out the tolerance. Is it part of being aligned? Being able to tolerate like your partner? Is it safe to say tolerance is part of it?
I would say tolerance is a very dangerous word within a marriage relationship because tolerance does also run out. If we're tolerating something, it means at a point there'll be intolerance.
You know, this is so crazy because I've been giving I was asked to make a toast at a wedding, and then I'm standing there with my big voice, and I'm saying to these people, one thing you need is tolerance. Now you're saying to me, it might run out, and that's heavy because you're absolutely right that you can only keep it going for so long.
100%.
You can keep it going as long as you have the energy to keep it going, but it does exhaust you, right? And at some point it runs out, and that's then conflict. So if you're not dealing, because if you're tolerating, it means you're actually avoiding the conflict that exists within the environment. Instead of addressing the conflict head on, going and dealing with it at that point in time,
Yeah.
Okay? So you don't have to tolerate, you have to resolve.
Yes. 'Cause
I
for
am
me-
so sorry for everybody I just said. I should read that
You have
part.
to redo that toast.
I really have to redo that toast.
If
I'm
you
so
just-
sorry
if
for
you
jumping
just
in.
shifted from marriage, right? And I've heard so many people, even in the corporate environment, say we tolerate diversity, and I'm like,
Yeah. What is that?
if you're just tolerating me, it's like the bottom line. I don't want to be tolerated. I want to be celebrated. So if you're just going to tolerate me in this marriage, it's almost like a passive aggressive posture. So I would not want to use that word. I'm big on language and words. So for me, tolerate would not be the word I
not
want
the
to
one.
use for marriage.
It's not the one.
I am so sorry.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you need
I
to
am
go
so
back.
sorry. Yeah, no.
Maybe shoot a video.
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot a video.
Post it. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
And make restitution.
Yeah, definitely.
Listen, I want to go back to conflict. There's a gentleman that I follow. He's in the U.S. Dr. Darius Daniels. You guys know him.
Yeah.
He once said that you can have a new relationship with the same person, and I thought that was so beautiful. Did you hear that, Heavy?
It's amazing.
You can have a new relationship with,
With
the
the
same
same
person. So we've established that conflict is inevitable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It's a matter of when it's going to happen, not if it's going to happen. So in moments of conflict, how have you guys resolved it and found yourselves back to each other?
You want to take it?
You need to resolve it really quickly.
Okay.
And I know the Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your anger, which is ideal. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's so late at night and you don't have the bandwidth or the emotional energy to resolve something. And we would say, okay, let's park it. But we're picking this up first thing in the morning. So
Okay.
you have to resolve as quickly as is possible, right? Because when you're tired, you're going to say things that are going to hurt your partner. And you can't take that back. There's no delete, undo
Eish.
button in the relationship. Words
Yeah.
have power to build and words have power to break. So resolve the conflict. For me, another big thing, and this comes back to self-literacy, is what is the story I'm telling myself about the conflict?
Sure. Wow. Okay. Wait. You need to expand on that.
Yeah, you gotta
That
break it
sounds
down.
very interesting.
So let's say Lyndon agreed that he would be home by 6 o'clock in the evening because he knows we have a date night and we need to leave at 7. If he's not home and then he only is arriving home at about 7, the story I could tell myself is he's just running late, there's something important that's happening at work. Or I could tell myself, how dare he be late for our date night? He is choosing to disrespect me. So can you see the two stories?
Yeah.
And the outcomes of the two different stories. So for me, I think one of the greatest skills you have in terms of knowing yourself and understanding yourself is what is the story I'm telling myself? And also, what's the data for my story? So if he continually disrespects me, then maybe I have got data. But if he doesn't, if this is just something which is happening out of the norm, I don't have enough data to then run with the disrespect story, right? I have to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Wow. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's really key. I mean, we had a conversation over lunch now before we came here, and Alexis had read or listened to someone who made a comment, and I said, but that could cause, and the comment was basically, it was in terms of intimacy, ask permission from your partner before you touch them.
Okay.
So I said, but it also depends on the context and what the relationship is between. If there's
Yes,
a relationship of abuse, then touching could be a threatening motion. So Alexis also, she then said, okay, so that's a story that you're telling yourself. So I can take something and I can interpret in so many ways
Yeah.
and make that my story. Could be totally wrong. And that's not the intention of what the comment was. So we need to be very conscious and very aware of what the person is saying, filter it before feeding back,
Yeah.
or asking questions of clarity before making comments or sharing an opinion on it.
Yeah. Wow, man. I told you, man. I'm here to absorb.
But I'm just there, like, because it's a lot for me as well to take it. Because, you know, I don't like conflict, if anything. You know, I always try so hard to avoid conflicts,
Yeah.
especially in relationships. I think it's
You're a
a necessity.
sweetheart.
Yeah, I'm a sweetheart. Yeah.
But what is the story you're telling yourself about conflict?
You see, exactly. You understand?
Is conflict negative, or is conflict just neutral?
I think I'm looking at it in a negative way, and because I'm afraid of anxiety. For the longest time, I wasn't having anxiety, and then recently, I just learned of this uncomfortable feeling that's making me sweat, that's making me uncomfortable, that's making me like lose my mind is anxiety, and I don't want to go to that feeling
Yeah.
anymore. And conflicts usually made me very anxious, and like you said earlier on, you just don't want to say things you're gonna regret as well. And I'm just one of those people that speak my mind, especially when I get to my quota, and then I just say the dumbest things ever.
Yeah.
So I really try to avoid conflict as
Yeah.
much as possible. But like you say, you're looking at it in a negative manner.
Yeah.
You are. Conflict is neutral. Okay, it's not the conflict that's the issue. It's how we deal with the conflict that determines the negative or the positive of that. So it's important to just keep in mind that conflict is a neutral concept. It's the dealing, the reaction to it, and how we deal with it that determines the outcome. So avoiding conflict actually builds further anxiety
Yeah.
over time.
Yes.
And so that is why we say you've got to resolve as quickly as you can in a manner that's a win-win for both parties. Because if one's got to win and one's got to lose, then conflict escalates.
Yeah.
So it's got to be
Can I
a
share a
win-win for
quote
both.
I heard
Please do.
about if you try to keep the peace, Heavy D, you start a war within yourself.
You know when I'm not making a joke, when I'm not coming back with a joke, you know that something just hit me hard.
It hit you hard.
It hit me hard because remember what I was telling you the one
It's
time.
not that deep.
Remember the not that deep part. I was always about the peace.
Yeah.
There was an episode where I'm telling you, like, the one thing I look for in a relationship is peace. You understand? I just want the peace. So peace may mean avoiding conflict at any measure and stuff like that. But that outlook on things now just say to me, look, it's not about avoiding the conflict. You have to deal with it now.
Absolutely.
My brother there was telling me just last week, communication. He was hammering it in my head. So I think, I'm getting goosebumps now. That just got me going.
Because the conflict can give you data, right? Because it says to you what is important to this
Yeah.
person. So if you're learning from the conflict, if you're curious about the conflict, what lies beneath? Why is this important to this person? Then you can come back better and stronger in your relationship. And it's the making up that is so amazing.
That's the exciting
I
part.
told you. Beautiful, bro. I told you. We have the poster man and woman of wisdom here. So just absorb.
That's a home run.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm actually thinking of putting together a round table. I don't know if you guys would, grace us with your presence.
That'd be amazing.
Just have a bigger audience and you guys chat whatever. The agenda can be yours. We'll just have mics, cameras there, and you guys just talk to a group of people because I believe your contributions, like I said in the document we sent you yesterday,
Yeah.
will help so many people, or rather leave an indelible mark on the lives of so many people,
Yeah.
young and old. So I think we're going to do that heavy.
Definitely let's.
Just put together a round table
Definitely
and
let's.
just have young people come and just listen to these two people.
And also just ask questions. Right?
Yeah.
Just ask questions
That's
as well.
that's the important thing. Is
Yeah.
to be curious.
You must also be curious today because you always have questions.
Yeah, I'm going in with the questions.
Yeah.
I think, I'm always just so curious, especially because just one more question before I forget it. I've been saying I'm going to ask this question, but then we're jumping on to the next thing. Premarital counseling. You touched upon that.
Yeah.
The importance of it.
Yeah.
Because everybody that I've noticed, no matter which where you are,
Yeah.
they tell me, like, especially like I'm saying, my friends, majority of them now are all married, and they say the same thing. Like, it was one of the most important things to have before you get married. And I'm thinking, Is it really? Because I've been, I approach life like that sometimes, and it scares me sometimes. I'm just really too.
You're like, is it
laid back.
necessary?
Yeah.
Can we skip this?
Can we skip this part?
Sounds too much.
Yeah.
So if you just think about your career, how much preparation was done for that?
Yeah.
4 years, 6 years, 8
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
It's a big investment.
Definitely.
If you think about marriage, it's one of the most important relationships in your life, other than becoming a parent. And we just wing it. You don't go to school, you don't go to learn about it. And most times you've learned from parents, from aunts, from uncles, from grandparents who also didn't learn about it and become knowledgeable. So we are just learning by trial and error how to do marriage.
Yeah.
So for us, I think it was the gift and the privilege, because we were at a church that wouldn't marry you as a couple if you haven't done the marriage preparation, which was really a gift.
Yeah.
And because of that, we decided to pay it forward and get involved in our church right now with the preparation. But you have to invest the time, the energy, the effort. If you're just going to wing it, you're going to make so many mistakes.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
If your marriage is going to be important to you,
Yeah.
you make investments in things that matter, right?
Yes.
Definitely.
So I think it doesn't fix everything that's coming, but it lays a foundation for you to have the tools to be able to engage with what lies ahead. So it doesn't mean you won't now have any issues in your marriage. You won't have problems in your marriage. Of course, it's going to come. That's life. So you've got to accept that. But getting the principles of marriage, the foundations, the key concepts of marriage in place up front helps you when the challenges do come. You have the tools to navigate. Your Waze is switched on, and you can now navigate whatever lies ahead of you. So it is key to really invest. It's a 6-week program. So it's not as if it's going to take you 4 years, but your marriage is the rest of your life.
And it is about those crucial conversations, right?
Yeah.
Sadly, we've seen couples who get divorced because only once they're married do they have the conversation of, would you like to have kids? And the one says yes, and the one says no.
Only when they're
Only
married.
when they're married. So now it's like, okay, it's a non-negotiable for me to have kids. It's a non-negotiable for him to not have kids. So what do we do now? So at least you're having some of those heavier or more crucial conversations before you take the plunge, because then you can still say, okay, I really want to be a mom. He doesn't want to be a dad. So maybe we don't have a future together. So at least you're having those conversations and you can make choices.
And it's again about that alignment, Abang.
Yeah.
Having those key conversations up front, which informs your decision whether you get married or not.
Or discovering when you're married that your partner has like 1.5 million rand of debt and you didn't know about it, and now you're sweating and you've got 3 extra jobs because you have to help pay it off. And so at least you're having some of those conversations before you say I do.
I like that you brought that up because I just had a thought now. Your relationship with money as a married couple, how has that been?
You can
Well, I
take that one.
It's always the man.
She's actually better at money management than I am.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, that there are roles for men and roles for women. But it doesn't mean that the woman can't take the lead in certain areas where she's stronger, right? Until the man catches up. So we've never let money control who we are. Money has been a vehicle for us to move our lives forward and the lives of our children, and then also to move forward God's kingdom. So we've sown into the buildings, wherever we've been in Siosha, we've sown into the buildings, etc. So it's important that how we use our money was for the things that matter most, not on fancy cars and etc., etc. So we never allowed it to control us, but money was just the vehicle to achieve certain things in life and to make an impact in lives of others. So putting our kids through varsity, for example, debt-free, with them not having any student loans after. It was a gift that we could give to them because we've worked so hard to be able to do that. So when you talk about purpose, and we spoke about alignment and how do we raise our children, we don't want our kids to start off life on the back foot with student loans, etc. It's not possible for every parent to do that. Okay, so when we can, it's an absolute privilege for us to do and a gift that we give our children. So yes, we've never really had conflict over money. We've worked together. We've always had a very transparent relationship about what we have, what we can do, what we cannot do, and had those conversations. So when there's a struggle, we're in the struggle together. When it's going well together. We enjoy it together. So that was really one of the key things for us as well, was to just make sure that that money doesn't determine the solidity of our relationship and dictate who we are as individuals and as a couple and as parents.
And also about, who's earning more at any given time.
Yeah.
It's about being comfortable with that there's times I earned a lot more in the relationship, there's times Lyndon earned a lot more, and we were fluid with that. It wasn't like, okay, I'm earning more, so I'm the boss of this relationship, right? It's about your identity so secure that doesn't determine who you are. But I love the question about relationship to money. We spoke about families of origin and the blueprints you bring into a relationship. And for me, growing up, it was coming from a place of deficit and scarcity, because my parents were always like, you can't afford that, you can't afford that. So subconsciously, you bring that into a relationship. So I had to unlearn the relationship to money around that. I mean, I just saw a quote by the rich dad who said, whenever his kids asked him for something, he never said, we can't afford it. His question was, how can we afford it?
So you're causing a shift.
Absolutely. And that is a powerful shift in your relationship to money, because now you're inviting possibility and solutions and resourcefulness. You're not just coming from a place of deficit that says, we can't have this.
That's beautiful, man.
Like also just sticking on money, has there ever been situations where, okay, fine, there's this big, beautiful beanbag you see, and you're attracted to this big, beautiful beanbag. But then you tell the missus, look, I saw this beanbag, I want to buy this beanbag, I think it will be beautiful in the lounge. And then you look at the beanbag and you realize, nope, the beanbag is not going to work for the lounge. Have you ever had those type of situations whereby one of you wants to buy something and they're set on this thing, but then the other one comes in and is like, no, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
How do you work around
useless
that?
purchase.
Exactly.
But cause.
Okay. Okay.
So it's changed now that he's older and wiser. But when he was younger, he would just buy a new car. And just, when I get home from work, there's a brand new car in the driveway. Like, what
I feel like I'm like you.
But there's also one for her.
Oh, nice. That's why you win.
You see, so when I get a new car, she gets a new
Oh,
car.
lovely. Lovely.
Nice.
No, that's how you combat that then.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of moments ago, you mentioned doing it together. Is there an element of friendship in that? And how throughout the years have you guys developed that friendship?
But being intentional, right? I think you have to be friends before you become lovers.
Odla.
No, I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes,
Yes.
definitely.
It's such a solid foundation. So it's about being intentional about building the moments of friendship. And we do a lot of fun stuff together.
Yeah.
We laugh a lot. I don't always get his humor, don't always
Okay.
appreciate it, but we do laugh a lot. And I think friendship is also linked to creating highlights in your life. So we are very intentional about planning, whether it's a long weekend away, whether it's 4 or 5 days, just the two of us, getting away to a place where we can just have uninterrupted times together. And I mean, last year was probably one of the most challenging years of our lives. And you can look back and think that was the worst year ever. And then you're like, okay, check the calendar. We had some time out then, and we also build friendships with people that we look up to and we view them as role models. So also just creating time with those friends. And like, oh, that was a highlight, that was a highlight. And then you realize it's those highlights that carried you through the hard times. Because lowlights, they gate crash the party, right?
Yeah.
They just knock on your door, kick on your door, uninterrupted, uninvited. But if you have enough highlights to mitigate that. So for us, it's friendship, but it's
Yeah.
also being really intentional about carving out time for the highlights in life.
Yeah. Making time for each other. When you have kids, it gets busy,
Yeah.
right? And your focus could shift completely away from your partner to your children. So being intentional about making time with your partner,
Yeah.
not for your partner, with your partner. Because at the end of the day, we're a team. And for the team to work, everybody comes to the party. Right? It's like a soccer team. It's exactly the same. If one player is not firing, the team suffers. So we've got to understand that we're a team. When we get married, we're a team, we're a partnership.
Yeah.
And we've always got to act in the best interest of the team, not of our individual selves.
You know, I wish I had popcorn.
Just absorb everything. It's a move.
Listen to them.
You know?
I see
Yeah.
these Coke over there. You're one step ahead.
Speaking about like making time for your partner,
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's not a quantity thing, but a quality thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as Alexa said, it's about creating those moments. We can't always go away and do something together for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
but just a long weekend or just a night away. Creating that, it's about and being uninterrupted, focused on each other
Yeah.
during that time, doing everything together, doing things together that you haven't done before, creating new experiences, new memories. So we're very intentional about finding stuff. Oh, we had never been to that place. Let's do that. So
Yeah.
each time when the tough times come, that's what you hold on to, is those awesome memories that you've created over the
Yeah.
years.
I had a
I think
sorry, go for
One
it.
of the things about spending time together today with gadgets, smartphones,
Yeah.
it's so easy
Yeah.
Yeah.
to get distracted, right? You want to check something quickly, and before you realize it, it's 90 minutes later, and you're still scrolling. So it's about saying no phones are allowed. So when we're out together,
No phone.
no phones.
Yeah.
No phones. You go
Rules.
for a walk or a hike, or recently we were at a place where we could do a boat cruise. Simple, but beautiful. And then phones are not allowed.
Yeah. So just being intentional.
Being intentional.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's what life is about
Yeah.
being intentional. If you have purpose in life, you've got to be intentional about fulfilling that
Yeah.
purpose. Otherwise,
It's a waste.
it remains a dream.
I had a conversation with my barber the one time. I think it's about 2 weeks ago. I was cutting my hair, and he mentioned something that I think we spoke about on the podcast, and that was relationship data. So often I'd sit down with my friends, and one of the mindsets that I would invite them into is relationship data is very important. Now, I did my honors in film and visual media, right? When I was doing my paper, my research paper, I had to collect data, right? So I can then have an informed decision in terms of writing the paper, etc.,
Yeah.
right? So I always feel like when it comes to relationships, there isn't that element of collecting data, about the person you see as your potential, partner. It's like people often skip that stage.
Yeah.
You meet the person, next thing you're in a relationship. You didn't take time
Yeah.
to learn about this person, to know this person. How important is collecting data about the person you could potentially be with?
Extremely important. And your invitation is also to create safety so that your partner can be authentic, which is why we spoke about integrity. So, I mean, I'm not the most adventurous person. I love hiking, I love walking, but I'm not going to be skydiving and things like that.
Same here.
So let's say Lyndon was this adrenaline junkie, and I pretended to like skydiving. I'd have anxiety. Oh, we're going to plan a skydiving
Nobody
date.
needs
Like,
anxiety.
oh, no.
Is he trying to kill me?
So I think it's just really feeling safe enough to share, this is who I really am. He was big on sports as a young person. Now he watches more than plays, but that was important to him. I was also a sports person, so we like activity. We're keen to get outside, be in nature, do things. But if you don't enjoy that, just share that with your partner. So for me, that integrity, that authenticity about who you really are is important, because then you're starting with trust, right? But if you're really coming into a relationship trying to fake it till you make it, which is what a lot of people say, I don't support that at all. I'd say just be real about who you are. And if you're not for the person, you're not for the person. So
Move on.
Integrity, yes. Integrity is so important. So you have to find out who the person is.
Yeah.
Because if you know that and you choose to love them, what a place of safety you're offering for that person. And I mean, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. So if I'm expecting perfection from Lyndon, am I not being completely unreasonable? So it's owning the fact that I have strengths and I have gaps, and he will have strengths and he will have gaps. And can we build around that?
And I think if you're not being, when you're dating and you adopt a certain persona, which is not who you really are, now you get married, and often what we hear is, yeah, but he's changed, or she wasn't like this before we got married. And that's exactly where that authenticity comes in. We need to create the space, the safe space, for the person that we are dating to be themselves.
Yeah.
Is it safe to force yourself? We talked about skydiving now, and okay, fine. He likes skydiving. I'm not good at heights, but I want to make my partner happy, and they want to go skydiving. Is it safe for me to force myself to get out of that comfortable phase in my life, or comfortable space in my life, and say to myself, listen, we are going skydiving because you love skydiving? Or is it just going to be forcing yourself to do things you don't like?
But
It's complex. So for me, no growth happens in your comfort zone, right?
Truth.
Absolutely no growth.
Absolutely not.
You need to stretch yourself to
Yes.
your courage zone. So, I mean, I took a jump. We were visiting friends in Canada, and I jumped down into nothing. It was so scary.
That's frightening.
But I did that. But that was for me stepping into courage zone. But if I'm forcing myself constantly to do things, and I'm left feeling so anxious, that anxiety is not good for my body, and it won't be good for our relationship. So I'd say, where you want to grow, please don't stay in your comfort zone. We're still growing.
yeah,
We're still learning. I love learning. I believe I'm a lifelong learner. So if you can grow, if you can evolve, that's beautiful. But if you're forcing yourself to do something at great cost to yourself, that for me would not be healthy.
Yeah, no.
I think it's also about asking yourself the right questions before the time,
Okay.
before making a decision. Why am I afraid of skydiving? What am I afraid of? Okay, is this something I need to overcome? And do I have the strength within me to challenge myself to do it? But one must never be forced to please someone else to do that. I think that's where the anxiety
Okay,
and
yeah.
potential regret then comes in at a later stage.
Yeah.
I also think you, as a couple, because you love each other, you don't have to
Yeah.
do everything together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You have to be independent and come together for interdependency. But you can't come together and be dependent on your partner. I think this is one of the questions you posed. Does your partner complete you?
Yes.
If I'm looking to Lyndon to complete me, I'm setting him up for failure.
Yeah.
He has to complement me. But he can't complete me, he can't heal me, he can't save me.
Yeah.
He can't. And that would be a completely unreasonable expectation. So we do things together. As we said, we build a friendship, we're intentional, but we also do things apart. I mean, Lyndon loves golf. And he invited, there's no way I want to play golf. It is so stressful. I'm sick of eye-hand coordination. No. So when he goes to play golf, I go and have a spa day. And it's beautiful. We both come back with our cups replenished.
Rejuvenated.
And we can be good for each other when we come. But if he forces me now, I have to get on the golf course and I'm just driving around on that car. No, our relationship
bored now,
is
eh?
critical. So it's about building friendships with each other as a couple, but also with other wholesome people in your life that can build into you, that can add value to you,
Yeah.
and that you can learn from and grow with.
100%.
That's beautiful.
Evie, how are you feeling?
Eye-opening information I'm getting. You understand? I was about to say something now, waiting for you to finish. Like I was like, rom-coms or what we see in the media have led us astray for such a long time. Because you look at the guy running into an airport and then he's shouting at the girl, "You complete me." And then all of a sudden now you break it down like you just broke it down. And you're like, okay, fine. You have to be dependent on yourself first. If you're not, it's that thing about, I like to say this to a lot of people as well, especially friends. I'm like, if you're going to make somebody around you happy, you have to be a little selfish with your happiness first. If you're not in the right space to be happy, how are you going to make the next person happy? So this whole "you complete me" stuff, yeah, I know, it goes, rom-coms.
Happiness is an inside job,
I
right?
love that. Yes, that's true. That's very true. Without it inside of you, how are you going to show it outside of you?
Can't share it.
You cannot.
And if you're constantly looking to someone else to validate you and to make you whole, you're completely giving away your power to change, to grow, to evolve. And you have to evolve. I mean, you were talking about Darius Daniels, right?
Yes.
He wrote this book, Relationship Intelligence.
Yes.
About being married to this different person. And there's going to be different stages. So you just get married, it's all the honeymoon stage, it's all exciting when you've done the work of sorting out the conflict. But then you become parents. It's a whole different identity, it's a new role. So now you have to understand that this is a different person. And although Lyndon will still be my priority, more time is going to be invested in the children.
Yeah.
So he's still my priority. I think your partner has to be your priority because the children are going to grow up, move out, and if they become your priority, what's left
Ish.
when you're in the empty nest, right?
that is a
Then
beautiful
there's just
bond
a
to drop, yeah.
shell there. So, and it's easy when the kids are there for your relationship just to become transactional because now you're saying, have you bought the diapers? Have you bought the milk? Have you paid the school fees? So your relationship must still be a priority, but you have to understand you're almost competing a little bit for time because when the kids are tiny, they're fully dependent on you. So now your role is as new parents, and then your role as school-going parents, and then later your role as children that have parents of children, adult children, and then grandparents. So you're with the same person, but all these different cycles in life, you're a new person. And you can't be so rigid and inflexible that he still wants the university Alexis to be showing up.
Doesn't make sense.
No, I'm very different to who I was when we first got married.
Yeah, and that was important for us also to learn as we evolve. It's not something you just know. But again, we had to, by reading, by learning, by having role models, by exploring, that's how we learn to grow as a couple and understand the different stages that we go through.
Yeah.
The empty nest syndrome, when your kids leave home for the first time and it's just the two of you again. You've got to prepare for those things. And if, as Alexis says, if your partner has not been your priority, how does your partner now suddenly again become your priority?
Yeah.
That disconnect has been created and it's hard to get it back again. So you've got to be intentional throughout your marriage to keep this a priority while tending to all these other things that life brings across your path.
And even there, when the kids are small, you have to be intentional about your tribe, right? They say it takes a village to raise a child. And I've seen so many moms on social media saying, where is the village? But I mean, you have to then, even if you just have couple friends and you exchange like 1 week in a month.
That's good enough.
We'll have all the kids, and then 1 week in a month you'll have all the kids so that you can have couple time. But it's about that intentionality because you want to make this investment that you trade out times like that for you to just breathe as a parent. Because with small children, I mean, we had our daughter, and then she was 2 when we had twins. So suddenly you went from 1 to 3.
In a heartbeat.
Well, in 9 months.
So you have to build a support network around you. And even if you don't have grandparents, I know a lot of people come to Johannesburg and they don't have a support network, but you can still build relationships with people
Yeah.
that can take on that role. In the US, they've done a really cool thing. I just read about it recently, where it's almost like adopt a grandparent. So many people come into the inner city because they leave the smaller towns, they have to come and work, and older people are lonely. So there's a beautiful reciprocity of a young family adopting a grandparent. So the grandparent comes in, and then the grandparent now is feeling needed and wanted and has a space for connection. So what a beautiful reciprocal relationship.
Yeah.
Because grandparents bring a different kind of wisdom.
That's true.
And they can take the kids, and you can have couple time. So it's about just being open to
beautiful.
the different forms of support that there could be in your life.
Yeah.
And also, Tabang, not being afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Because what we often find is young married couples with small kids don't ask. They think they have to struggle through it on their own. So ask for help. So we encourage couples to always, as a married couple, find an accountability couple for you that can hold you accountable, that can also support you, and that can build into your lives as a young couple. Find a couple that is older, that has been married, that has a track record of successful marriage, or raising successful children as well, so that they can teach those principles to you and you have that support. So it's important to just have that accountability as well as a couple.
I like that you mentioned asking for help, which makes me wonder, what's your relationship with vulnerability been in your marriage?
I think we've been together for so long. We've been through so much. I think the only way that we could still be standing, is through having been able to be vulnerable with one another. And I think it comes from a position of trust. So if you've built the right foundation within your relationship, then you can be who you are without any judgment from your partner. And that's what vulnerability is, right? It's being who you are with no judgment. And so that basis, that foundation of trust is key. We've been through some challenging times as a couple, as individuals, where with illness and et cetera. And I've spent hours just crying and being okay, and Lex is being okay with me just doing that, because that's what I needed at that point in time.
Yeah.
So that vulnerability, you've got to be comfortable with vulnerability, but it comes from a foundation of trust.
And the trust for me is linked to safety. I spoke about safety. You have to create a space for safety in your relationship.
Yeah.
So I know no matter how bad things are or whatever crazy things I've done, Lyndon will never hold that against me.
Yeah.
Or down the line say, do you remember this? Do you remember that? And because I feel so safe, I have the courage to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And for me, vulnerability is a sign of strength rather than weakness. It takes tremendous courage to be vulnerable, but it's linked to the trust and it's linked to the safety. Do you feel safe enough in this person's arms, in their relationship, that you can be yourself completely? When you're at your lowest and you feel like giving up, when you've been retrenched at work, and you're dealing with that, can you come here and just find that safety and that care and that support in the relationship?
So Tabang, we're very strong on holding each other's hearts. So when you hold your partner's heart, your intention is never to hurt.
Ever.
But it's to create that safety, that comfort, that contentment, that your heart is held safely in your partner's hand.
I'm swooning.
Bro. Bro.
You're swooning and he's sweating.
Yeah, he's sweating. What's going on there?
This part just got me going, because I think for me, I'm all about that tough exterior, So when you say that, being able to be vulnerable to that level with your partner, creating that safety space for you and your partner, it's opening up so much for me, because I'm all about that, like I'll be your strength. Don't worry, you can handle the sad stuff. I'm gonna be the tough guy. I'm gonna be the rock. So like opening up space to just break down those walls. That's just like eye opening for me. That's why you hear me. I'm just on the side, the breathing. I'm like, oh my God, it's a lot. You understand? So I think it's beautiful when explained like that, because in relationships, like it's so difficult for me. I always try to bring myself into it because it's always a lot simpler that way for me to just connect with the conversation a lot better. For myself, walking up and saying, okay, fine, I'm going to have to break down these walls. I'm going to have to be vulnerable. I'm going to be soft, lack of a better word. I'm just going to be soft with you. It's just such a mission. But looking at it from that angle, it's more of a safety net. It's more of just a safe space for you to say, look, it's not hard work. It's not being weak. It's not none of that. It's just being safe. You're in a safe environment for you to just be you on a different level.
And is it being soft or is it being human?
Ooh. You see? Right there. You understand? Right there.
And where do you go, Heavy D, if you're just the tough guy, you carry everything. Where do you go when you're tired?
Nowhere. Yeah.
And you need that space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need that space.
Because you have to get it out of you. You just, no.
And our natural inclination is, as men, we've got to be strong, and strength comes through kind of macho,
All the
harsh,
time.
hard, etc. But there's also a gentle strength, which is what we're talking about. Is that gentle strength that you bring to your partner, to your children, and that you then extend broader, without any judgment toward anybody, but understanding that people go through things, and let's just hold them where they can feel safe.
I love that. Hold them where they can feel safe. That's amazing for me.
Yeah, I'm sure you see your partner differently now.
My man. Like it just has to hit different.
You're probably gonna call her after this and say,
I'm
"Baby,
sorry.
we need to talk."
I'm sorry.
Beautiful. So you've had challenges, right?
Yeah.
And in all of that, you guys have never mentioned divorce, have you?
It's not part of our vocabulary. We believe it's not a word you include in your vocabulary. You don't get married with the idea of divorce. So when I chose Alexis and when she chose me, it was a choice that I made. And therefore, I've got to do everything within. When things are tough, even when I don't feel like it, I've got to go beyond my human nature and support the choice that I've made. So divorce has never been a conversation that we've had. It's never been a word we've threatened each other with. Because the minute you allow that into your life, it can get a hold of your relationship. Any negativity, whatever seed you sow, bears fruit, whether good or bad. So the negative seed of divorce, if you sow that into your relationship, that seed grows. But if you're sowing love, if you're sowing understanding, if you're sowing all the positive things into your relationship, that's what grows. So it's really key not to be very conscious of the concept of sowing and reaping in your marriage as well. I mean, it's a biblical principle.
True.
And if your identity is in Christ, as ours is, then that becomes the center, not all the other worldly mechanisms. We've got to hold on to who has Christ created us to be. If we believe God has ordained our marriage, then that's what we've got to honor.
Yeah.
Because in honoring each other, we're honoring God. But there are some exceptions, which Alexis will mention.
I was going to say, so when we got married, the divorce word, you just never spoke about it, right? And the church was very anti-divorce. And even in our church, way back then, in the 80s, our minister started studying and learning, and he said, okay, people, I'm also shifting my relationship with the divorce word. As much as God hates divorce, we also have to understand context and real life. So if you're in a relationship where you're feeling threatened, where there's abuse, we will never ever say to you, God hates divorce, right? So I think you have to understand context. I'm not going to say to any person, put your life in danger. God understands divorce. I mean, if you just look at the people in the Bible that God chose, he understands human beings. He understands frailty. So he's never going to say never. So I think as much as we don't use the word, because some couples just use it every other week, right? I'm going to divorce you. And they say, oh, it's a joke. But it's not a joke.
Never a joke.
With your words, I said you
Words are powerful.
build, you break, you destroy. So that's never a go-to word for us. But I think it's also just about having compassion on where people are and what their reality is. So we don't say never, but for us, it's a word we absolutely do not want to use.
Okay.
Ah,
No divorce.
yeah, no, definitely no divorce.
Don't use the word. There might be circumstances that take you there, but
Yeah.
don't just use it as a matter of course in your everyday speak with your
Yeah.
partner. Also, like, oh, I'm falling out of love with you, or I don't love you anymore. Why would you be saying that to your partner? You know, I like to say that feelings are overrated. Feelings are just the add-on to anything. Feelings must not be the thing that decides for you. There's the engine of the train, and then there's the other parts of the train, right? So your thinking, your choices for me are up front here, and your feelings just
Those
are the
carriages
add-
coming
are the
behind.
carriages that come. So because feelings are transient. They change all the time. So if you're feeling like this today and you're feeling like you're out of love with your partner, then tomorrow you're wildly in love again, then it's a up and down relationship, and that for me is skittish. So you're not creating safety in your relationship. So we don't live our lives by feelings
Yeah.
because they are so unreliable.
Yeah.
And I've learned this, you know, people would say, I am sad or I am anxious. And Susan David has written a book called Emotional Agility. And she says, separate yourself from the feelings, because the more you separate yourself, the more you have the power to make choices. So instead of saying I am sad, say I am feeling sad. Because if you say I am sad, it's existential. It's part of your identity.
Wow.
If you say, I am feeling sad, it's feeling in this moment right now. I could be feeling happy later on. And that was such an eye-opener.
I like
am
that shift.
feeling this way. And there's one author who said, you are the sky and feelings are the clouds. The clouds come and go. There's blue clouds, white clouds, gray clouds, dark clouds.
Yeah.
It changes all the time. But you as a human being, you are the sky. You are that constant.
Yeah.
And you can hold space for feelings.
Yeah.
But you don't have to make decisions or choices based on feelings.
Feelings. I think I once wrote on my Facebook that I've taught myself to always choose my rules, because when you think about it, our feelings are dynamic, meaning that they are always changing and therefore unreliable.
Absolutely.
But rules are not. If you follow them, they'll gift you with something we all desire, and that is consistency.
Yeah.
Rules
Wow.
and values.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. 100%.
I like that.
That was
Spot on.
beautiful.
Lots
I
of
really
wisdom here as well.
We try.
We're learning from you.
We try. You guys are very
beautiful.
inspirational. You know, it feels like I've known you guys forever. We've been chatting for how long now? I think just over an hour. It doesn't feel like that, I know.
Yeah, definitely doesn't.
But it feels like I've known you guys forever. So I just want to say you guys are very inspirational. And I think with that said, I want to know what's been the secret, the secret ingredient to 38 years
38 is a beautiful
of
number.
marriage.
That's a
think
beautiful number.
It's a lot of what we've spoken about.
Yeah.
And there's not one thing. It's many different things that make up a great meal.
Yeah.
So the recipe, there's got to be different ingredients that makes up the great meal. And the same with marriage. What are those ingredients, as you rightly ask? So some of it we spoke about up front, which is the respect. the authenticity, transparency, strong communication, honest communication, are some of the things that's really important to us. And I think also, and Alexis can add on, but also doing fun things together to keep it fresh. And back to Darius Daniels' point.
Yeah.
And that's what it means when you marry the same person, or it's a new person every day, but it's the same person. Because you're creating new experiences, new memories along the way. And because of the what's the word? The cycles that we go through in life, we are ever changing.
Yeah.
And so embracing that, not being afraid of it, not being anxious over it, but embracing that as people, as individuals, we are changing, and as a couple, and if we don't grow together, we'll then grow apart, right? So there's a lot of things we have to do together, learning, reading, talking about certain things, being aware of what's happening around us in the world, and talking about those things, and how does it impact on us?
Yeah.
And taking that forward. So we've got to be realistic about life, but also intentional about things around respect and authenticity and et cetera, and having fun.
Fun, yes. Fun is
fun.
important.
A lot of fun.
Pleasure.
That's very
You
important.
must find pleasure in your relationship. But I think a big thing that we learned early on is so often we come with a deficit orientation, right? So let's say 80% of our marriage is pretty wow. We're just getting things right. There's a 20% that we could improve, 20% gap. What often happens in relationships? People focus all their energy, all their attention, all their effort on the 20% gap. And then it feels like your whole relationship is wrong. Rather than it's just 20% that could be better, that could be improved. So we like to say, come from an abundance orientation. Focus on what's right in your relationship. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Come with an attitude of gratitude.
Gratitude.
Say thank you. Express your appreciation. Express your gratitude. And this deficit thing, I mean, if you just think of the Garden of Eden, right? There was, and how I picture it in my mind, there was this awesome, awesome garden with just amazing beauty. And Adam and Eve focused on the one tree
Sure.
that was off limits. Rather than saying, God in all his goodness, he gave us this whole garden. They focused on that one thing.
One thing. And it ruined everything.
And it set a whole history into motion.
Yeah.
So we are very intentional about not just majoring on that one or two things that you could do better. In the grander scheme of things, do you want to
things.
put all your energy there? Or do you want to be celebrating the things that you guys are really acing in your relationship?
I think that makes you happy, nah? Just hearing the word gratitude.
For me, like everything, I say this all the time, and I'm going to say it again. If you're not grateful, and if you're not grateful for everything, then you're in trouble. Hearing you guys say that, like, be grateful in this relationship, be grateful for everything, for me, it just makes me so happy.
Yeah.
It gives me peace. It balances me out.
I think what you just said, Alexis, is testament to what we've been saying, what I've been saying in the podcast these past couple of episodes, that, when we amplify gratitude in our lives, we start to see this shift from scarcity to abundance.
Truth.
Because I think a lot of the times there's 8 great things going on in our lives, and there's like 2 wrong things going on in our lives, and we focus on that.
Yeah.
And that takes away your joy,
Yeah.
your peace. Even.
Absolutely.
So it's really beautiful to
Can we
hear.
become activists for gratitude?
Yeah.
We're thinking about
Happy
it.
Freedom Day, just by the way.
Happy Freedom Day.
It's
We're
Freedom Day.
thinking
Oh,
about
it's
it.
Freedom Day, yeah.
Oh
Yes.
man. Listen, we're gonna wrap it up. Wow. I wish we could go on for longer.
We're having the round table, so we're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we could always just have them back, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And
Definitely.
talk more, have more people come and all of that. God, I think we wouldn't do justice to this conversation if we didn't bring him into our discussion. How has he helped, you guys in your marriage?
So God ordained marriage.
Okay.
we believe that. I believe, we believe that marriage is a perfect institution,
Yep.
but it houses two imperfect people.
Sure.
But because God ordained it, I believe that marriage is the way God wants to show the world the love of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So you spoke about the seriousness of marriage, and for me, that part is serious.
Yeah.
Because no one coerces you to get married, right? If you choose to get married, it says you're saying yes to this magnificent responsibility that God is asking of you to do marriage in the way that is communicating love to the world. So when you're a Christian, when you believe God, you do life very differently. Non-Christians are exempt from that.
Yeah.
But the minute you say you're a child of God, you're a Christian, you have to do life differently. And I think that's what's kept our marriage going.
Yeah,
Because we might
100%.
not have done the things, being so gracious and giving your partner the benefit of the doubt. If we weren't Christians, we could easily just slide into, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
But when God has commanded you to love, when He's commanded you to forgive 77 times 7, you have 77 times 7 times, you have to do life differently.
Yeah.
So I think that's the core.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, perfect institution. And for us, God is heavily invested in your marriage, in your success, because it's His gift to the world. So if you're open to Him leading you, you're guaranteed to succeed,
Yeah.
right?
It doesn't mean you won't make mistakes along the way,
Of course.
but
Or
it's
have
having
challenges.
that, or have challenge, but it gives you that sense of security that you can come back to the Father to speak into your marriage again. So, and that's the foundation for us, and even just raising our kids in the church and serving in the church, being part of, being active in the local church, and that's what they do, and so they've learned that from us. We both grew up in that way as well, but just pushing those values through with our children, understanding the role that God plays. That there's no discussion about going to church on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
That's it. We made the decision once. We don't have to make the decision every Sunday. It's been decided. So that's how our children grew up, and they still like that.
Yeah.
Well, for the most part.
It's about that consistency you
I love it.
right?
Yes.
What do you feel like?
Yeah.
You just do this consistently.
Yeah.
Because this is the way to go.
Yeah.
It was also key for us is that before we got married, as we spoke at the beginning, we had to talk about our vision. We both believed that there was a calling on our lives for full-time ministry. And if we didn't both believe that, then we shouldn't get married.
Yeah.
And so we went into full-time ministry at the time, and we had to go through a tough time in a Mozambican refugee camp, living in a mud hut, and with nothing, washing in a little
Story
basin
for
that
another
people
day.
do. But
Wow.
it is a story for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's really key that God remains the center,
Yeah.
the focal point of your marriage. You can always come back to that center.
Your true north.
Your
I
true-
love
yeah,
it.
Your true north.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've got lots of stories, so please forgive me for.
We're gonna
so
need that, bro.
inspired,
Until
man.
it's amazing, bro. Trust
Yeah,
me.
we're wrapping it up. To someone who's thinking about getting married, what
Oyana
nuggets? what nuggets do you have for that person, for those people? And then, I lead a team at church, directors and mixers, and one of the things I always say to them, when you read Genesis 1:26, it says, "Let us make mankind in our image and our likeness," right? That us, I believe, is the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit, right? The Bible also says that where there's unity, God commands a blessing.
Yeah.
So just that verse in Genesis 1, what it reveals to me is that we were created by a united power, right? And it just opens my eyes to the power of unison. So nuggets for people who want to get married, and also why it's important for them in any and every season they find themselves in to just win and lose everything together. Well, not lose, but just journey together, in unity.
You want to go first?
So I think outside of your relationship to God, your relationship with yourself is one of the most important relationships because that sets the tone for every other relationship.
Yeah.
So I would almost want to say so many people need therapy, right? Just because our parents did the best that they could, but they didn't know what the impact would be on us. And we carry a lot of woundedness and a lot of trauma. And there's a saying that says, the wounds might not be your fault, but the healing is your responsibility. So heal for your bloodline. So for me, that's important. Get to know yourself. Self-literacy, get to know who you are. Understand your woundedness. You can't hide it. But as you bring it to the light and you allow God to bring healing to those parts of you, you become whole, which is a beautiful gift you bring into the relationship because then you're not looking for a partner to complete you, to validate you. You get that from God, but you also come in not with perfection, right? Because outside of God, there isn't. But you come in with wholeness. You know those areas that still need tending and caring and nurturing. And you come in your wholeness to this relationship, not expecting the relationship to fill you. Because sometimes you do that, and then the marriage is not that amazing, and then we have the first child because we think, okay, the first child is going to fix it.
Yeah.
It isn't. It isn't. Even the Bible says renew your mind, renew your thinking. So I'd say put a lot of energy into healing yourself and coming into the relationship with wholeness.
Yeah, and from my side, I think what causes a lot of conflict in relationships and often divorce is unmet expectations. And so it's really key for you and your partner to have what do you expect in this relationship? Because if that expectation gap exists, the possibility of conflict then exists. So I think open, honest communication.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a cliche already, but you can't stress it enough that there's got to be open, honest communication and also be vulnerable enough to express what do I need from my partner at this point in time. Today I'm feeling I just need you to ABC.
Yeah.
Being okay to do that and having that safe space to be able to do that and speak openly and honestly with your partner about that, where you're at. And we talk about 100 relationship, but we don't always bring each one 100%. Today, Alexis is feeling down. She can only give me 20%.
Yeah.
I've got to pick up the slack because I'm in the space to do that. Tomorrow, it's the other way around. So it's not always being at 100 each one of you, but it's about acknowledging that we live in a world where things are changing and we experience things. And so being okay with today your partner not being at the level that he or she is normally and picking up the slack for her or for him.
And as Christians, I mean, you said the unity on the days when we're both at 20 because it's just been, I mean, sometimes the workplace is like the war zone, right? Yeah. Just coming together and saying, God, we can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can't. Holy Spirit, we just need you.
Take over.
To take over. Those that wait upon the Lord will rise up with wings like eagles. So it's coming together and acknowledging both of us don't have bandwidth. But God our Father, who is so loving and generous, is going to help us get through this time where we're just both struggling.
Beautiful.
And it doesn't mean we get it right all of the time.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean that because there is no perfection outside of Christ. So, but we've got to have the grace. I think grace is a really key part of marriage, of any relationship. It's just an attitude of grace for your partner as well, that you display, not just to your partner, but to the world in general.
Yeah.
We need more of that. So, but grace within your relationship is really key.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Heavy. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Like for me personally, you just got me out of my comfort zone, or you got me out of a space where I'm just like, remember, like I said, I approach things in a very, like I'm sitting now, I approach things in a very laid back manner. I don't want to get into some things too much because they make me uncomfortable. I don't like to get uncomfortable because I like safety. You know, I like being in my own personal space and being just comfortable there. So getting out of that comfort zone and just being able to grow and learn the way you guys are teaching is for me, this has been one of the most amazing conversations of my life.
Yes.
And I'm saying that for real.
Thank
It's
you.
been an amazing conversation. I loved it.
Very
Every
beautiful.
single bit of it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Love
Yeah.
it.
100%.
been
We
amazing.
appreciate you guys so much.
Amazing.
And thank you for just gracing us with your presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the poster girl, poster boy of wisdom. I hope you enjoyed this episode and I hope it blesses you. Until next time, Tabang here. Cheers.
Peace.